In the year 2011, deep in the heart of the Mara, a lion cub opened his eyes for the first time. His name was Jessie. He wasn't born into power. He wasn't born into peace. He was born in the shadows, shadows cast by kings who ruled with strength, fear, and exiled dominance. From the beginning, Jessie's world was wild and unforgiving. But he wasn't alone. Beside him was Frank, another young cub, not just a brother by blood, but by survival. They shared the same mother, the same milk, the same dangers, and the same dreams, though they didn't know it yet. Together, they took their first steps. They chased insects in the golden grass, curled up under the same shade, and learned the scent of the wind, the rhythm of the land. But in the world of lions, no young male stays in the pride forever. That's the law, and nature never forgets its laws. At the age of 3, Jessie and Frank were forced out, not by anger, but by destiny. No land to claim, no protection, no future promised. Just two young lions walking into the unknown with nothing but each other, and everything to prove. Being cast out wasn't a punishment, it was nature's way. For Jessie and Frank, exile came as it always does, without warning, without mercy, no longer protected. No longer part of the pride, they were just two young males now. It's unwanted, unproven, unknown. Around them stretched a land of danger and silence. Every direction held rivals. Every scent carried threat. There was no territory to defend, no lionesses to follow, no cubs to raise, only the hunger. Only the search. Most lions don't survive this phase. They starve, they fall in battle, vanish without a sound. But Jessie and Frank kept going. They moved through the grasslands with quiet eyes and lean bodies. They learned how to read the wind, how to disappear, how to wait, and in time, they saw an opening in 2014. A pride stood nearby. Its borders were weak. The scent markers were old. The patrols were lazy. The ruling males, fading it was a risk, but one they were ready to take. Together, they attacked. Dust rose, claws struck. Roars filled the sky, and when it cleared, the old kings were gone. The pride was theirs. Jessie, once exiled, had returned as a king. Jessie was only 3 years old, but now he was king. He and Frank had done the impossible. It had taken a pride not by luck, but by instinct, by timing and by force. Together, they ruled as brothers. They weren't loud rulers. They didn't roar just to be heard. They didn't need to. Their power came in silence and presence. It tamed how they moved through the grass without fear. In how the pride followed them without question, cubs were born. Life began to settle. For a while, it felt like victory. But nature doesn't allow comfort for long. And then, one morning in 2016, Frank disappeared. No warning, no struggle, no body. Just ... gone. Jessie searched. For days he moved across the land they had once claimed together. He followed scent trails, stood in old patrol routes, listened for a roar that never came. He didn't find Frank. What he found instead was something else: emptiness. Jessie turned his back on the pride, not because he couldn't rule, but because ruling without his brother meant nothing. Others said he had failed, that he'd lost control. But they didn't see the truth. Jessie hadn't lost a kingdom. He had lost a part of himself. From that day forward, he walked alone. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife. Jessie walked alone. He wasn't seeking land. He wasn't hunting females. He wasn't chasing power. He was looking for something the wild rarely returns a brother. For 6 years, Jessie wandered the savannah without a pride, without allies. He never joined a coalition, didn't try to claim a new kingdom. He hunted alone, fought alone, slept alone. But every morning, he roared. Some said it was to mark territory. Others believed it was a call to Frank. He passed through lands held by younger males, prides from a distance sometimes, approaching, but never staying. He was not driven by instinct alone. Jessie moved with calculation. He outsmarted rivals. He slipped through scent lines. He knew when to strike and when to disappear. And though his body began to show signs of age, scars on his face, torn ears, worn teeth, he still held himself high. He was not defeated. He was not done. Observers began to call him the Nomad. King, a lion who ruled no land, but left a trail of legend wherever he walked. He wasn't feared for his strength alone. He was respected for surviving year after year. Through droughts, rivalries, and isolation, most lions don't last. That long alone, Jessie did, because he wasn't just surviving, he was searching. One quiet morning, the grasslands of Mara stirred. A powerful roar shattered the silence, deep, familiar, unmistakable. It was Jessie. After years in exile, the ghost had returned. The pride he once ruled was no longer his. New males guarded it, now half-tail and low-gall, younger, sharper, confident in their dominance. When they heard that roar, they rose instantly. They knew the voice, and they remembered. Jessie didn't charge. He didn't challenge head-on. He circled, distracted. He vanished into the bushes like a shadow, leading them one way, while slipping the other. It wasn't cowardice. It was strategy, while his rivals searched for him in the wrong direction. Jessie moved toward the heart of the pride. He approached a lioness. Their noses touched, and in that moment, she didn't run. She knew him. They had once shared a bond, and again, they mated. It wasn't a mistake. Jessie planned it. He was older, slower, but smarter than ever. It returned not to rule, but to leave his mark, and he did. Not through force, but through memory, through presence. Some called him a trickster. Others, a ghost. He would appear, stir the balance, then disappear again, leaving nothing but paw prints and questions. Jessie wasn't trying to reclaim a throne. He was rewriting what it meant to be a king in the wild. A lion's power is in numbers and brothers, in prides, in coalitions. But Jessie had none of that. He hunted alone. He roared alone, fought alone. He became a myth on the plains. A lion with no allies, no borders, no rest. And yet he endured. One day, observers witnessed something rare. Jessie encountered another lone male doga, a warrior like him, hardened by years without a pride. For a moment, they walked together. Two survivors, two ghosts. They watched each other step for step, testing the idea of an alliance. It didn't last. One day, Jessie brought down prey and offered to share it. Doga refused. That was all it took. A quiet tension turned into a sudden clash. Dust exploded. Claws tore through flesh. Teeth met bone. Jessie, though older, didn't hesitate. He struck with experience, with purpose. Doga was faster, but Jessie knew how to draw blood. When it ended, there was no clear winner. But Doga left with a shredded eyelid, deep cuts on his face, and respect for the lion who would not bow. Even wounded, Jessie stayed standing, and the trials didn't stop. He faced 20 hyenas once alone. No backup, no coalition, no escape. They surrounded him, snarling, laughing in that high, mocking tone. Jessie didn't run, he roared. And then he stepped forward. He lunged, not to kill, but to claim what was his, and he did. The hyenas backed off. He dragged his stolen meal. Away in silence, in a world built for the strong. Jessie had become something different. He was beyond strong. He was relentless. Each new scar told the same story, that no matter the odds, Jessie never surrendered. And in every roar, in every solitary footstep, there was still a question burning in him. Where is Frank? In 2022, Jessie was 11 years old. For most wild lions, that's the end. Few make it past 9. Even fewer do so alone. But Jessie was still walking, still roaring. And then, something unexpected happened. He met a young male lion, strong, confident, a rising force in the region. Observers recognized him. He was Jessie's son. They stood face to face, father and son. For a moment they walked together, side by side. No aggression, no tension, just silent understanding. Some wondered, could this be the beginning of a new coalition? Could Jessie, after all these years, pass his legacy not through blood alone, but through bond? But it wasn't meant to be. After a short time, Jessie left, and a few months later, his son was killed by rival males. Jessie would walk, alone again, he always did. But something had shifted. His steps were slower now, his body thinner, his face more worn. Still he moved with purpose. Still he listened for a roar that never came. Still he searched for Frank. Jessie was a father, but more than that, he was a memory walking, a living legend whose time was drawing. Near Dot in the early months of 2023, Jessie returned to the northern reaches of the Mara, the place where his journey began. He was 12 now, for a wild lion. That is ancient. But he wasn't finished. He was seen trailing the edges of a pride, moving slowly, carefully. Perhaps he was searching for a connection, or simply following instinct. But the females turned him away. No growls, no fights, just rejection. He raised a paw toward one of them, an old signal from a long life ago. But the pride rose as one, sending a message clearer than words. Jessie wasn't welcome. He didn't try again. He turned, walked away, and disappeared into the tall grass. Most would have rested then, lay down in the shadows and let time do what it always does. But not Jessie. He walked deeper into the land, back toward the place where he had once ruled, once searched, once roared for his brother. But that land now belonged to others. A coalition of 3 young males had claimed it. Strong, fast, fresh with ambition, Jessie faced him anyway. He didn't retreat. The dust rose, roars, cracked through the silence. 3 against 1, Jessie didn't falter. He fought not for territory, not for dominance, but because that's what he had always done. He fought for the right to stand one more time. The battle was fierce, but Jessie's body, after all the years, after all the wounds, could no longer carry the weight of war. He fell, dragged himself. Beneath the shade of a tree, the sun burned above. The wind went still, and the Mara held its breath. Jessie closed his eyes, and the Nomad, king the lion who ruled no land, but conquered everything, was gone. No one stood beside. But everyone felt his absence. The grass didn't move. The air didn't stir. For a moment, it was as if the whole wild remembered him. Jessie died alone, but his story didn't end there. In the pride he once touched, his daughters still roam. They carry his blood, his fire, his resilience. They are the quiet proof that he was here. Jessie never found Frank, but every step he took was in that direction. Every roar in the early light, every silent pause at the edge of a territory, refusal to surrender. It was all for something more than survival. Jessie's life wasn't about dominance. It wasn't about how many cubs he fathered, or how long he held a pride. It was about something deeper, about walking alone in a world that punishes solitude and still standing tall, about choosing not to give in, even when giving in would have been easier. He didn't die with a kingdom. He died with scars. Scars that told a story no other lion could match. And though he vanished into the grass, he didn't disappear, because legends like his don't fade. They echo in every lonely roar that rolls across the savannah, in every young male forced to walk the same path, in every observer who watches the wild, whispers one name, Jessie the Nomad King. He never ruled a kingdom, but every lion knew him. He belonged to no pride, but every land bore his mark. He had nothing, and yet he left behind everything that mattered: courage, memory, and a name that the wind still carries.